Greetings, dear friends. Welcome to the Pisces New Moon Groups check-in. Today we meet in the lead up to the new moon time in a few days, in 3 days. And with this meeting, we end in the year, astrological year of 2025-2026. Last year, at the time of the Aries new moon, we met first for the group's check-in, recognizing the importance of this year, the year of the Centennial Conclave, when the spiritual hierarchy meditates on the purpose and the divine plan for humanity for the next 100 years. All these years, all the groups that work with tradition of Alice Bailey been in a state of meditative vigil, holding the receptive attitude, being on the periphery of the great ashram, meditating together with the hierarchy. And every month we met in our space to share our recognitions of what are the aspects of the divine plan that our groups can sense and recognize. And this is our opportunity to share those recognitions, inquiring the way together, the way forward. And today we meet again in our circle to share our main recognitions of this past month, the cycle of Pisces that closes this important year. And at the same time, as always, as we approach in the end of one cycle, we're preparing for the beginning of the new cycle. So today, as we will share our recognitions of the past month, we also invite us to look together forward, inquiring together what is our work further as we preparing for the festival week of group impact later this year. Before we continue, I want to bring your attention that we have possibility of translation of live captions translations. So you can activate them on your control panel. So please, if you need translation, choose the language that you will be using for our meeting when you will be sharing. And just make the choice in the menu and your control panel. So now I just activated the translation. So that would help you to stay with the flow of the meeting if English is not your native language. And another organizational point, today our meeting is shorter than usual, and this meeting will be followed by the Middle East Vigil that always happens at 7 p.m. Universal Time, Greenwich Time. So we will end 5 minutes before the hour. So therefore our meeting is shorter today than usual. Let us now take a few minutes of silence to align with each other, come in rapport, telepathic rapport, with the wider group, with all world servers, and bring our focus to the question, what our main recognitions from the past month, and how do we see our work further as we prepare for the festival week of group impact. Let us take a few minutes of focused silence. Let us sound the mantra of the new group of world servers. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. And now we open our floor for sharing. So I invite you to activate your videos and that we imagining us being together in a circle around the group flame of the group heart. And let us share our recognitions of the past month and recognitions of what is the work ahead of us as we prepare for the festival week of group impact later this year. When you're ready, please unmute yourself and make your offering.
Speaking out of turn, I would like to offer an observation. My name's Jonathan. I'm in Portugal, and I work with the wisdom community or the wisdom group, which is largely centered in the United States, but has a very strong presence in Australia and somewhat in Europe. And the wisdom group is largely inspired by the teachings of Lucille Cederkranz, uh, and but nevertheless being completely open to the ageless wisdom in all its avenues, avenues of the Christ of Maitreya. My observation is that something is changing significantly, that is coming through in the form of soul-inspired leadership. If I could put it in a simple frame, it's the shift from personality-led leadership to soul, and it's occurring in my own life, my own experience. I'm having to step back somewhat from my former role, let's say, in contributing to group work, to make space to feel into this new leadership, this sense. And if I can also give it some context, I'm from Britain, which has a second ray soul, and I've been associated closely with the US group, which has a second ray soul. And so I'm sensing that the nature of the leadership, which is inspiring, let's say, those two nations, the leadership of the persona is being withdrawn. And we see that the forms of it, the structures which have characterized that persona-led leadership are all falling away. So I offer the question, what does soul leadership or soul-inspired group leadership really look like? And if I can quote from the presentation given by the US group at the New Moon, it was put into a specific phrase. The second ray soul of the USA carries the keynote, "I light the way." this is best accomplished when the USA stands behind the one family of nations with an open heart, with unconditional love and selfless support. So the nature of leadership coming through group work is that kind of leadership that leads from behind and supports unconditionally. And I feel that's really what I want to share is how do we recognize and how can we nurture that as that impulse impacted group work since the Wesak Festival and the conclave, and is now bearing fruit in Pisces at the end of the astrological year. So going forward, my suggestion is really, having this group, especially having done so much work, becoming accustomed to being a one planetary server, how can we reach in and receive and nurture this new way of group leadership, which might expand so that each one of us feels a way of stepping into supporting group work in a new way. And as that moves into community and into spheres of the people and humanity. Thank you.
Greetings, kia ora from New Zealand, Aotearoa. We're a small group who for 22 years have worked with the process of sound and colour. So we use mantra. We have been led incrementally into this role and working with the Davic realm as co-governors. So I'm going to be brief. The intensity of this last month in Pisces, for us who work primarily on the seventh ray, which means, of course, the whole gamut, the intensity of the separation, diversive, conflictual energies that are global, and maintaining ourselves in monadic form, in stability, wisdom, word, and will. And those are the words which we constantly use. And we have, of course, shall we say, a kit bag, a kete of mantra and of invocations. So we work daily, morning and evening, but we work together. So currently, at the moment, while I'm working with you, our group is sounding their meditation for this day. And this day is all about the three aspects of work which are so current, so necessary, and so needed for all of us. So the first one is democracy, and true democracy, which of course has not yet occurred on the planet. The second one is governance, and doing governance is what we call working with the Davic realm, and they offer us their own compositions, which we are conduits for. And thirdly, it's government. And government is a very key process at the moment. So the intensity of the two lodges going at it, the necessity to hold the will, to be magnetic, and that's the other thing, isn't it? We're all called to maintain that loving aspect, the magnetic aspect. And thirdly, the goal, which is actually to lift the planet into her new, if you like, from our point of view, an octave of the third ray, which includes all living beings. So going forward, what we are asking is, are there any other builders out there who have a magnetic attraction to nature and the divine? We would welcome more people who might be interested. And so if you have any interest, we would really welcome hearing from you. Thank you very much.
Would you want to share your email with us or something that... Thank you. Put it in the chat. Thank you very much. Sorry, Judy, I interrupted. Go ahead.
Do you want to speak, Danielle? Okay. Well, I'll share some of the recognitions and ponderings that I've had this month, and also how they can segue into the new group of World Servers Week as we approach that. So I'll piggyback a little bit on Jonathan's thought. The idea of leadership really has been a fore, just come to the fore in my mind, looking at leadership, poor leadership, where it has gotten us, the kind of leadership that we need. And in the group I'm with, which is the UN and the SDG groups, we, for the most part, have been working on two forms, two sides of that aspect. One is the UN as an organism and an organization, and how to support it and how to help it become what it could be. And the other thing is working on the Sustainable Development Goals. So it struck me that the piece that was missing, that we really needed to spend more time with, is working on leadership. Leadership as the idea of soul leaders being those who can bring forth the next iteration, the new world, the new civilization. And that was really missing in our presentation of what we were offering. And so it really was a triangle of things, first, second, and third ray, or seventh ray, and the first ray of leadership was missing. And so how do you support soul leadership? And that is something that I sat with. And looking at the fact that the new group of world servers can, as a full group, be working with the energy of synthesis, I thought about how can I best really access synthesis? And I think this is something that we've all been thinking about. And all of a sudden, it came to me that in order to access synthesis, I really needed to stand in identification with the Christ, heart to heart, because through the heart of the Christ, his alignment could be with the avatar of synthesis. We're given the statement that their hearts are in unison. And when I heard that statement, all of a sudden I recognized that they stood in identification. And I could best receive the energy of synthesis if I could align my heart closely with the Christ, i.e., to stand in identification with him, while he in turn stood in identification with the avatar of synthesis. And it was through that heart alignment, that strong heart alignment, that I could bring the energy of synthesis through. So we added to our meditation the idea of accessing the energy of synthesis in that way, to bring it forth to all those delegates and leaders of the world, delegates meeting within the United Nations, but all leaders. And they didn't necessarily have to have a title or a badge, but to bring through that energy of synthesis, to bring forth their leadership quality. And they in turn could then bring that quality to all members within we the people, who could bring forth their leadership, that we really needed to work actively on supporting leadership itself. In our meditation, we also work on two levels in terms of filling the individual planes with light, love, and will or power. And then we work on breaking through using the dissipation of glamour and illusion. And I understood that when we filled those planes with light, love, and will, because we do that first, and we get them as full as possible. And if you think of the great invocation, that's what it does. It breaks down each plane And it brings through light, it brings through love, it brings through will. And so we do that first. But then when glamour and illusion, when we brought that beam of light through, it was the light within the planes was attracted to the light that we were bringing outside. And all of a sudden, the obstructions, it's not like they became porous because the light was being attracted, the light on the inside and the light on the outside were being magnetized to each other, and it was causing the obstructions to be porous. And I have never read this in any of the books before, but it was a reality that for me was not just an idea, but it was a truth, because I could see the wearing away of the obstructions and the illusions because light was coming from both sides and it was kind of sandwiching them in. And so this was a new understanding of how to work with light, both within and without. And then another recognition that I had was we bring through the idea of a circle of nations standing together and their flags tipped in. Someone in our group had offered this as an alignment. And when they tipped in, all of a sudden I saw them touching together. And that touching together created a planetary Antakarana. And my recognition most recently is that while the blue books help us to learn how to develop the Antakarana, they never talk about how humanity as a center can develop a planetary Antakarana. So we have the triangle of Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity, but yet we're never really told how humanity as an entity develops the Antakarana to be able to get the energy through. And so it was this recognition that all of a sudden I thought the new group of world servers, the one planetary server, if you will, stands as the best citizens of humanity. And as a group, our work as the new group of World Servers Week comes about is to be able to, together as a group, develop the planetary Antakarana, because then you can have a free flow of energy between Shambhala and humanity, because that Antakarana is not developed. We have developed our own individually, but it has to be humanity as a kingdom, or the new group of world servers standing as humanity, to be able to develop that together for the free flow of energy. So those were the recognitions that I've had, both for how we work and the piece that is missing and what we need to do next. So thank you.
Grateful. I just realized my audio was actually open as I was hemming and hawing. And very grateful to the thoughts that are being shared. Very potent, powerful times that I think we are responding to. And very grateful for virtual group connections. Incredibly grateful. Little outpost here in the desert, lamps in the desert for Cincinnati's. Anyway, I want to thank, I don't even know where to start. The externalization of hierarchy is happening. It is a reciprocal approach, as has been noted. There has, in large part due the crumbling of our times, we are told, there's much scattered around. The blue books do not present. There's a lot of presentation going on in a circular manner, a hint here, a hint there, a hint elsewhere. But we are told that it is the actual externalization of hierarchy that is causing, and I quote, crumpling of world organizations. And I think that is the key to the question that Jonathan posits of leadership. I think we're on the cusp of that and on the revelation, if you will, because somewhere I recall reading, yes, democracy, and it will be a democracy based on the ability to recognize leaders that carry light, that we actually have our eyes and ears open, us foot soldiers of hierarchy, might I say. I see us as, working in the fields here. And what was I saying? So much I could say. But as foot soldiers on the very ground levels, I will just throw in the thought of, first of all, I have great hope that is given me to see a lot of people here running that are in their 20s and 30s. And they bring a whole new energy in. They're bringing a whole new energy in, and it varies greatly. But they are recognizing much that needs to change, and they are coming forth. And I find that of great possibility. As going back to no longer forerunners and coming into sync with the inner, building the Antakaranas, as was said, by the way, Education in a New Age has a lot of clues in there. That he actually gives not just the lotus, the 12-petaled lotus of humanity that we all are familiar with, the egoic lotus of the soul. He gives the egoic lotus for humanity. And the petals are defined in a different light. Oh, Jonathan, I think you would appreciate that. But as we enter into those worlds, I'm very aware that the plan is said to actually be substance. So that perhaps from being imprinted or recognizing or deepening into that emerging plan, we learn to work with perhaps Davic substance. And I'm just very grateful for who is a person I don't know that spoke about the angelic, because that too, as we all recognize, is increasingly coming to the fore as we increasingly align with the group and with hierarchy and with the group. And on that, I will just say one last thing, because there's so much. And this one, I'm going to read a quote that I recently have been focused on. The group Antakarana from Race and Initiation is still incomplete, and the aspect of pure reason of the heart does not control. The evocative power of the triad is not adequate to hold the personality steady, and the invocative power of the personality is not existence, speaking from the angle of group personalities, which make up the personality aspect of the ashram. To me, that is, I never really considered the ashram even having a personality aspect. It's the personality relations, and I think that's what's happening. Group relations are, for me, definitely happening as I open up to new avenues of approach and inclusiveness. Then and only then can the group stand. Thank you. I could keep going about the avatar of synthesis, but I'll give up the floor. Thank you.
I would like to build on what Judy shared. Sorry, I was late. I was in another appointment before. To hold this whole Antakarana, the planetary Antakarana, I think what is really helpful is to come together in one place, all of us. For us in the Nations Lab, we do it in the so-called council chamber for elders in training. If we have a place where we focus ourselves, like the ajna center of the planet, the cave, the planetary cave, so to speak. From there, we may be able to hold all of us together, this planetary Antakarana, invoking the higher force, the synthesis energy, the Christ energy, and evoking the soul light, the soul consciousness in humanity, so it can meet, and then maybe this planetary Antakarana can go all the way through, the saving force can go all the way through. Thanks.
I want to share this image that came some times ago in a conversation we actually had with Uta, that as the era of the Forerunner ended, we now entered the new phase, the new era. And for me, this image came that it's in a way similar to when in university, when we come into the end of our studies, there is this one semester that we get to prepare our graduation work, our diploma thesis. And so in a way, this time, following the era of the Forerunner, is time when we start working on practical tasks. And it's not study anymore, it's working on real issues, time to work on real issues. And as we prepare for the festival week, in a way, it's like back in those university time when you have office hours with your professor and you prepare all your questions that you encounter as you start working on real issues, real diploma work. You have that possibility to bring all those questions to your superior. And that's when, in fact, the festival week is about. As we start recognizing the real potential of our individual groups and the bigger group as a planetary group, one planetary server group, we start receiving many questions that we cannot find answers in the blue books or any other books. And that's the time during the festival week when we can go and ask our superiors, asking their guidance and asking their advice. So all this year, it's time for us to prepare for that office hours with our superiors during the festival week. And I also shared this image and this recognition with Michael Linfield, and he said that, yes, it's similar to what he sees. And he says the way how he calls this era that the era of the Forerunner ended, and now we enter the era of revelations. So each of us is standing in the point of receiving own revelations, and we are asked to act on those revelations. And one more thing that's been very resonant for me this last month, it came in one of the group meetings, group meditations that's been happening. I think it's Joe Walls who brought this concept of will to express. So as we stand in this position of receiving impressions and receiving revelations, we are asked not just to be receptive, but to be in the point of expression what we recognize, to express either through words, through ideas, or through action, but to stand in that active, proactive position of radiance with the will to express.
I'd like to just add one quick recognition as you talk about the will to express. There are some people, even within our circle, that I consider my teachers, but my teachers no longer are on a pedestal. My teachers are my coworkers. And that's just a new recognition. So you mentioned Jo, and she would be one person that I would attend what she has to offer, because she can say something that will spark me and that I can take it and I can work with it. So you're right, it's no longer in the blue books, but we look for that wisdom now from each other. We really are each other's teachers. It's a very different way of understanding teachers, where there used to be teachers that were up here, and then we looked at the masters and their wisdom that they gave us in the books, but we have all that now. And so we are in a place where our coworkers are our teachers. It's a really nice place to be.
I think that links in with the idea of leadership. Teachers are sort of leaders. It's a similar thought form. I find it interesting, the Tree of Life, the Tree of Light group that I go to quite a lot of their meditations, and their theme at the moment is leadership and truth. And it's about looking for leadership. I think there are a few good traditional leaders around in the world, if you can look and see them, but it is more about group leadership and leadership in your own life, and radiating and showing the way forward simply by the way you live and respond to other people. The other theme, and I find this very interesting because I connect with a few different groups, how these themes like leadership come through, and the other one is light. And one of the vigils, the Pisces vigil, I felt very strongly that I was to speak about light, and I spoke about light and initiation. And then I was asked to do a meditation with another group, and the theme again was light, and light as the reminded me of the Antakarana. Light is a connection between the highest and the lowest, between spirit and matter. And I love, Judy, your idea about the inner and the outer light dissolving, the problems with the light shining from both sides, and how we need to not see, well, maybe good and evil as opposing forces, but as part of the whole picture. And this idea of the light shining through, making it porous, I find really appealing. And I wonder if it's linked to this idea of last year, the fourth ray coming more into manifestation, and this, the light from within without, is part of that harmony through conflict, seeing that permeability of problems. Thank you.
I'd like to just affirm what you said there, Helen, about leadership in one's own life and group leadership, that going forward we may come to expect and observe opening to more inclusive forms of group leadership. Opening to more inclusive forms of group leadership. I'm simply aware that my experience seems to be changing within a group context, and I'm curious to see how that works out. And we might, each of us, we're accustomed to certain forms or modalities of how groups have been running or sustaining and organizing themselves. But what does more inclusive group leadership look like? That is a kind of a question which is I'm looking forward to seeing how that unfolds.
Yeah, when you talk about group leadership, Jonathan. It's just the image, it becomes like it's as if there's the former ways of leadership as in one, now it becomes just a group. But essentially, it's not the combination that is or amount is changing. It's the consciousness is changing. And and then another image was the group that is traveling, in the mountains, whatever. It's just people who know the way, who are, who have greater energy, in the front and in the back, supporting those for whom it's harder to, to move. So it's sort of, it's the amount of vision that comes and amount of energy that's being distributed to those who actually are sensitive to that energy and have the way to apply and offer the way of application. So it's sort of, it's not even the orchestra that everybody plays its part. It's sort of, it's much subtler distribution and connection, and through the group under Corona, the distribution comes through. And it's, to me, it's not even the leadership anymore. It's awareness, group awareness. And it's like really, it just started from lighting the way, seeing the way, bridging, and those parts. But, if we talk about humanity, a lot still going the wrong direction. Still from Cancer moving through back to Gemini and around the circle. So it's so those two wheels in astrology, he says that it just wheels that turning on themselves, like it's leading by actually going. But if you're going into different directions, there will be no leadership because the direction is different. So it is this new way of leadership if we want to call it this way. It requires also the three multi-dimensional movement, and that's coming, but I hope the fourth ray, will be helpful in that regard. Thank you. Over.
Fortunately, today we have a time limit for our meeting. It feels we could easily go for another hour. If anyone wants to have last comments closing our sharing today, because as I said, we have to start the Middle East Vigil in 8 minutes, and we need a couple of minutes for tech support to prepare.
But the main question for the group from us is: are we holding, we did this work for a year, and this check-in work, are we continuing? How do we see that? Maybe not to express now, but maybe to, I don't know, maybe Sashi will offer somewhere to write it, the feedback. So it would be good for us to understand, are we continuing this work through the next year, astrological year it is. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, follow up on the permeability that someone mentioned, and that when the multidimensional. So what I'm seeing is the cell wall, and the permeability of letting in what we let in and what we decide is not appropriate in alignment with what we know. And then you have the center, the cell, and the permeability. And I do think that we're doing that work, and we can do that. I guess as we do this as a group, then we're more than one cell. We're a group of cells working together. And just to be able to speak of that cell wall is not just, I've seen it as individual, of course, but to see it as a group cell wall. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander, for providing these platforms for group.
Thank you. This is our collective experiment. We learn how to communicate. It's not an easy to find the optimal format that we could hear each other, and as Judy said, we could learn from each other. And so we invite you to share your thoughts, ideas, how this could be organized in a better, more efficient way. We have some ideas for the new year, but we'd really love to hear from you. So probably at this point, email would be the most efficient way to continue this conversation. And I want to invite you for an intergroup silent meditation at the exact time of the equinox. I put the link to the announcement of this rhythmic opportunity for different groups to meet together in silent meditation. So you can read more about it in this, following this link. And also I want you to invite you for the traditional New Year sharing of our group about our program for the next year. And we will share some ideas of how we can communicate more efficient way between many groups that are now being so activated through this last few years. So on 23rd of March at 7 6 p.m. GMT. Please join us. We will be sending the link and the announcement for this sharing, March 23rd. And with this, I invite Daniela to close our work today with the ritual that we usually do.
Ritual that invites us to voice the last sentence of the great invocation by scooping in the light and love and power, bringing them into the earth plane, offering in generosity the blessing to the earth with 3 ohms. So let's start. Let light, and love and power restore the plan on earth. Om. Om. Om.
Thank you, friends.